Now, Josh Brolin, this Inherent Vice has been called a cinematic acid trip, I guess, through with Paul Thomas Anderson and Thomas Pynchon. How would you describe this? It's a quirky movie, right?
It's a quirky movie, but I think in doing the movie, it was so much more quirky. I mean, when you read Thomas Pynchon, you're not really sure how far to take it or what to take out. So I think the more I read the book, the more I realized that when you're in a mentality of a total and complete and utter bong hit, you have to just go with whatever, whatever hits you. And when you're with Paul, he's willing to go any direction, and he's willing to go as far as you want to go, or maybe wants you to go further. You know, he always has a pretty extreme vision of things. You know, if you look at The Master, if you look at Boogie Nights, everything he does, you know, great character pieces, but he's willing to take it to the extreme. So I think, you know, when we were on set, we took things very much to the extreme. I think his edit was a little tamed compared to what we did. So it was even more of an acid trip than you guys experienced.
I was wondering about that because your character, for example, Bigfoot, has these big comic moments. I mean, he is just over the top in some scenes, and then he gets very reflective and serious the next moments. And I was just wondering, how did you know how to play those? Because they work well, but you got to find it in the words, right?
You got to find it in the words, and it also the chemistry that you have with the actor next to you. I mean, Joaquin is somebody who will go any direction as far as you're willing to take it, and some of those scenes are really motivated by Bigfoot because he has such a big personality. But what's great about Bigfoot to me is that, you know, he's perceived, there's this cosmetic perception that you have of him almost immediately when you see him out at Channel Estates, and, you know, this block-headed guy, and that, you know, he's kind of holding on to this idea of right stuff, 1950s mentality. And then once you get inside his household and see his wife screaming at him and see him kind of totally emasculated, you know, there's a great other side to him that he's always kind of fighting against. And so it's not just this kind of character or caricature of a character. And it's great because Pynchon, I never got to talk to Pynchon, but I know that the book was written with a really good friend of mine in mind, Anthony Zerbe. So once I heard that, there was some extra element that because he's a good friend of mine, that I thought, oh, I think I know how to play this now.
Oh, that's wild. And the whole thing with Joaquin, with Doc, is hard to gauge too, because at one moment you guys are friends, and the next moment you're enemies, and it goes back and forth. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah, no, it is all over the place, but it's a great relationship. I mean, I didn't even know existed as much as it did until I saw the film. There's a great familial thing going on, you know. I don't know who these guys would be in another world, in another, I mean, this is the strangest world ever, but in a more practical world, who these guys would be. But it's fun watching them together, you know. I really enjoyed. Obviously, working with him was fantastic and always fascinating and always kind of on the edge. But as a relationship in a film, it was, no, I liked it. I wanted to see more of those guys, objectively, not subjectively, but objectively.
Now you were, I looked this up, Josh, 2 years old when this movie was set in 1970, and
Right.
a lot of it's very contemporary today because it's very hip. But on the other hand, a lot of it is throwback too. I mean, this was this was a world at revolution, breaking against that whole Eisenhower era, and it was very harsh, of course, with the drugs so prevalent. What's your view of it, with taking that time trip back to that day?
Well, it's great because taking any time trip back to a place that you don't have any experience of is wonderful. I mean, 1968, when I was born, was such a volatile year, and you know, it was the end of the sexual revolution, and then that's right before the Manson thing happened, and it's right before people realized that the 60s weren't necessarily going to conclude like they had hoped. And then you have, you know, somebody like Bigfoot, you insert him into the mix, and that's probably one of the reasons why it didn't. You know, there's a great comic that that Paul had made about kind of the mentality of Bigfoot that may be a poster, may not be a poster, but it's great because he's the opposite of everything that the 60s, at least the way you and I think of it, represented. So it's an era that I finally got to saturate myself with, at least through Pynchon's and Anderson's eyes, but an era that I would have liked to have been involved with because I'm sure I don't know. It just seemed like a lot of fun.
Do you have any fun stories from the set, from shooting to tell?
No.
Okay.
They're all private.
Okay.
Look, the whole thing was fun. It wasn't, usually when you have movies that are fairly serious, you talk about No Country or something like that, and there's usually a lot of fun stories that come out of it because it's a drama. This is such a kind of a acid labyrinth that if you go, if all the stories that you would know or that you would tell on a talk show or something, just go see the movie and you'll see them all manifest.
Speaking of No Country, this movie, Inherent Vice, is now in the Oscar arena, and there's lots of buzz around that. And you've been there before. You were nominated personally as an actor for Milk. No Country won for Best Picture. And in the old days, there used to be such a thing as an Oscar film. There used to be the big epic, let's say, like The English Patient or Gandhi or Out of Africa. And today, and I think No Country for Old Men was the first movie in the new genre, would be my point on this. I'd like to know your take on it. It's all different now, isn't it? The Hurt Locker can win. 12 Years a Slave. These movies, starting with Old Country and up till now, everything's different, isn't it, at the Oscars?
It's great because they're all wonderful stories. Having seen Whiplash, having seen Foxcatcher, Inherent Vice, all these movies are smaller movies, but they're being directed by incredible directors. And I think those incredible directors are starting more and more. It's been such a kind of a, I don't know, you have your superhero movies, which I think are wonderful, but movies have gotten either big, $100 and $200 million movies, and then what's left are the great small stories. And these great directors that I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with are still interested in telling those small stories. I don't think there's anything wrong with the massive Marvel stories, being involved and, playing Thanos and all that. It's great. I think it's a lot of fun, but you want to mix it up, and I'm sure the directors feel the same way, so they attach themselves. Bennett Miller having the success that he had with Moneyball and then going and doing Foxcatcher, why would you do that? Or doing Men in Black 3 and having some success with that and then going and do Paul's movie where you're not being paid anything, But the satisfaction, the gratification out of it. I remember the first movie that I did that I really, absolutely adored was Flirting with Disaster. I remember being in a small screening room watching that, and I just go, that's this feeling that I want to continue in any way that I possibly can of watching a movie and just thanking God you're in this movie. This is the most gratifying professionally I'll ever feel, gratified.
Wow, that's great. Okay, well, Josh, thanks so much. Good luck at the Oscars this time around. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks.